Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Divorce Couch. With the Christmas and the festive season coming up, we thought this would be a good opportunity for us to discuss the challenges that come up around, these important traditions that we sometimes build into family life. And when we suddenly find ourselves in a position where we have to share those special days, that can be, quite challenging. We can experience loneliness, and sometimes it can create a little bit of conflict around which partner gets what days. So we thought this would be the ideal time to share our experiences around that. So as always, we'll have a quick moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Salma, and I'm a divorce coach based in London, UK.
Good. I'm Simone, and I'm the divorce coach in Germany.
I'm Jackie, and I'm a divorce coach based in the north of England.
And I'm Claire, and I'm a divorce coach based in the north of Ireland.
Great. And I think what we're going to start with is what we want to cover, I suppose, in this session is, we know we've got Christmas coming up, but actually there's lots of traditions that we create when we're in a family, and that could cover anything from birthdays. For us, an important, as a Muslim, an important event is Eid. And I'm sure there's lots of other traditions that the ladies will have to share. So who would like to start?
I could go ahead. I remember the pain. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, it's so natural that you start sharing birthdays and Christmases and then and the Easter holidays. And I remember just the pang in my heart that, because you know what, there is so much also that you build around a day like this, that I have to be honest, I really hate. I mean, I'm not full of hate, but that one I really felt really difficult to do, to not be on the birthday morning with my children, or Christmas Eve, for example, in Germany is a big one, to not have them. So fast forward 6 years, we have now created our own traditions, but it is something that we really have to work into. And I think this is where I feel coaching is amazing, because we are being given these tools that I didn't know then. How do I anticipate, at the moments they're not there? Or how do I create a Christmas Eve on the 22nd of December, for example, this year? Yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about the tools later, but that was my immediate reaction. The first time they weren't with me, it was pang. I was like, oh, shoot, this is really painful. And that is something that I really had to grow into accepting, I have to admit.
And that really resonates with me, because I have to admit that, me and my ex-husband have been separated and divorced for almost about 7 years now. And this year, my son turned 16, and he had gone up to stay with his dad due to obviously the COVID pandemic, and they were still homeschooling. He'd gone up to stay with his dad during the Christmas holidays, and then they weren't going back to school in January. So he rang me and he said, "Mum, can I stay another couple of weeks?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And his birthday's on February the 9th. And I said to him, "But you have to be back for your birthday." And obviously he was having far too much fun at his dad's, and he wasn't back for his birthday. And for me, his 16th birthday was, every birthday is a big deal in my house. I've always made a big fuss about the children's birthdays. And I remember calling him on his birthday, probably about 6 o'clock in the evening, because I did not have the heart to call him all that time. And I remember getting a message from him saying, "Mum, are you going to call me?" And I called him, and I spent 10 minutes crying on the phone, because I just could not bear the pain of not having him with me. And I think it's the first time I actually reflected on how my ex-husband must have felt during that time, because of the distance. Because my ex-husband lives almost 4.5 hours away. And because their birthdays always fell outside of school holidays, it was very rare that he would be there on their birthdays. So I just almost had taken it as a given. And I think this year for me was, I really, really struggled with that day.
Yeah, and does it just show you though also that, you know, some over time, sometimes things get a bit easier and sometimes something else comes out of the blue and just takes you and you're just not quite sure. I remember one of my important ones was Mother's Day. So we had done an IVF journey for a lot of years before we'd had our boys, and a lot of our friends, their kids were much older than ours when we had ours, and our boys weren't, we didn't do IVF to have them. But I just remember the first Mother's Day. So we separated in January. So Mother's Day here in Ireland is in March. And they weren't with me that weekend. And I just remember thinking, you know, the sort of the eggshells, do I ask to have them? You know, I didn't know what to do. And I was trying to think of the kids and trying to think of my ex-husband and trying to think of me. And it was that, I suppose that eggshell thing of what voice did I have? And what voice did I want to have? And I remember a really close friend of mine, when I was saying to her, you know, the boys are with their dad this weekend, and she knew it was Mother's Day. And she was the breath of fresh air in my world. And she says, well, I hope you're going to light a fire, run a bath, have a glass of champagne, and celebrate the fact that you're a wonderful mum.
Yeah.
And that really, I mean, I still go back to that moment. And I thought, out of all the things in my head on how to do this, that was never one of them. And what she gave me was the gift of being able to do Mother's Day differently, to celebrate being a mum, to celebrate the fact that we had children. And then I just did Mother's Day with them the weekend after, when I said, right, boys, you have to do me breakfast in bed. And what I did that year was, I thought, what do I want to do? I thought, I want to spend time with my children. So we cycled from one town to the other and had ice creams and cycled home. And that was the best gift that I could give myself, was doing something fun with the boys. But her comment helped me to see it in a different way. And that's what we do as coaches, is we help people to see something that they can't see, because you're so stuck in the emotions that you get caught in around celebration days. And it's so normal. And we've all been there. And yet there are maybe alternative things. If someone suggests something that you think, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know how to do it. So that's the one story for me that stands out more than any of the other celebration days. It's that Mother's Day, because it was for me.
Yeah.
I think for me, I was right from the outset, the big thing that I always felt was, how do the children feel? Because they hadn't wanted the separation. So I always tried to focus very much on what were they wanting. And for me, it was about, well, they hadn't wanted the divorce, so I was going to go with what they wanted. And for me, it was then about accepting that things had to be different, but different doesn't mean bad, different can mean good. And it is just a case of opening your eyes. And I can remember on a special occasion, and my children were, they were staying with the dad. And I thought, right, okay, what am I going to do now? Right, okay, it's a Sunday morning. I'm actually I got myself a stack of magazines. It was summertime. I made myself a pot of fresh coffee. I got myself some lovely pastries. I sat out in the garden and I just enjoyed that me time. And, you know, it was different. It was something different. I've been sort of, me and my husband divorced a long time ago. But just to give hope to people who are finding things even difficult at the outset, that yes, things can settle down over time. And one of the things that I'm really quite proud of was an achievement for us. And that was my son, who'd spent 4 years out in the States doing a degree. And we flew out together with our other daughter, my granddaughter, to his graduation, and we were there with him at his graduation. And I mean, for me, that was great. For my son, it was great. We were all there. We were still there as a family, because even when you're separated, you do still have those ties. And so I think it is quite important that, yes, things can be difficult to begin with, but over time, those emotions do settle down. Yeah.
And I think the point that you made, Jackie, is really important, as you did clearly, is that to allow yourself that flexibility that, you know, they are important, and it is an important day that we build into our lives, but we can still celebrate, and we can still, you know, if we can just put our, you know, it is, and not to deny that it's there are things that are still going to hurt, but to be able to accept that, yes, this is painful, but like you said, I really need to work out what's best for the children, you know, what is right for them. And if we can sort of focus on that and put them right in the middle of our decisions, then we're in a better position to sort of start managing how we're feeling without denying how we're feeling.
Yeah. Can I just quickly throw in, I don't know whether we are already at the end. I think we should have another episode, which is about what if two parents don't agree on what's best for the child. There is the situation that maybe sometimes one is not willing to come together to graduation or birthday. And I want to, it just dawns on me, we have to talk about that, because that's just a different approach, which doesn't change that it has something to do with acceptance. But you know what, that one I think we have to cover.
I think another episode would be good for that, because it's such an emotive topic and it covers such a breadth of things. So I think what we're doing today is we're talking about, you know, we're coming up to different festivals and different things that are in our world. And we're looking at how do we start to find a way to make it that it is a good celebration in whatever way it looks like. And I suppose we look through the lenses of, you know, well, this is the way it is, but maybe that's not the way it always has to be. And how I like your word, flexibility, Salma, because I think it is that sense of there are two parents that want something and two children that want, or two or three, you know, whatever. And it is difficult. And maybe you have no children, and maybe you come to Christmas and maybe you're on your own. And what do you do then? And who do you go to? And how? So I think such a good starting point is looking at, what would you like it to look like? You know, what would you actually like it to look like? If you've always gone home to your parents, do you want to do that? Or do you want to use it as an opportunity to do something different? And start to sort of broaden your questions and curiosity around, well, if I could have anything, what is my ideal? And if I can't have my ideal, what would I be happy with? What might work for me? Because that allows you to start to see things slightly differently, to give you the ability to think, okay, well, it's not my ideal, but yes, I could live with that. And you're not doing it in a way where you have no choice. And what I find on my journey is that it took time, but over time, I realized that one of the things that I wasn't doing was figuring out, what would I like? So I was sort of going to my ex-husband, what are we going to do? What would suit you? And he would say, well, I don't really mind, what would suit you? And I didn't really know. So I have learned over time that actually spending time to go, what would I like? Yeah. How would I like this to look? And so I'm quite happy to reroute all sorts of different things now, because I think, so for me, the birthday, we do birthday presents together in our house, you know, so either I would go to my ex's or he would come to mine. But on other days like Christmas, Mother's Day, whatever, well, I just reroute it. Last year I did Christmas dinner 3 days before, got to Christmas Eve and thought, I've done Christmas dinner. Christmas Day is going to be so relaxing for me. So it's how we approach things, and we are the only ones who can give ourselves permission to actually have that flexibility. That comes from within us. That doesn't come from an external outside thing. So there's two forces in this.
Yeah. And I think one thing that comes up a lot for me with clients is that sense of managing that sense of loneliness when you do find yourself alone on a day that you felt was important to you. So, you know, how do you kind of get through that? And one of the things that, you know, we often discuss is to plan ahead. So not to just accept that, you know, if you go in with the mindset that, I'm not going to have my kids this Christmas, so I'm going to spend that day alone and upset, and I'm going to, you know, be in that sort of almost in that victim mode. But there's so much else that you can do if you plan ahead. You know, maybe, you know, go to a friend's for Christmas. Okay, it may not be what you've traditionally done, but you can still spend that day with other people so that you're not sitting at home. But I mean, maybe that is what you want to do. I mean, now, you know, a couple of years down the line, I love that time on my own. But, you know, in the beginning, it can be quite difficult to learn to spend time on your own. And it's really important to sort of look at what else could you do? You know, how could you spend that day so that you're not sitting at home feeling incredibly sad and lonely? And, you know, maybe you want to plan a day out, or maybe you want to, you know, like just plan something at home that's going to keep you busy. So, you know, planning ahead rather than just waking up on that day and thinking, what am I going to do today? I'm on my own. And, you know, so we want to, however we can, we want to avoid getting ourselves into that space of feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yeah, I think like Claire said, really, it's very much a case of thinking, actually, what would I really like to do?
Yeah.
I've maybe got this time that I didn't have before. So not think of it as something that's being taken away, but it's almost something that's being given to us, and it's an opportunity. Yeah. And so, yeah, that takes some working out, really does, because you know, sort of the grooves in your brain are so used to doing things one way that then you've got to sort of, you know, rewire it really. And yes, it's okay to think about yourself.
Yeah, and it gives you something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Which is probably at the beginning, the first time it happens, it probably takes a lot of time to get used to.
Yeah, definitely.
The questions that I love to use is, you know, what's your alternative? It isn't, you know, as much as I would, you know, would like to not have this unfold, that's just the new inevitable future. So, and if you know that, you know what, if you can't go right, then there is only, I either now stall or I go left, and then I'll do and try something new. And anticipation is such a huge thing, right? You know what, you know it's going to happen. And what we have also not touched on is it's a great thing for our kids to see, right? You know what, they know this is change, but you know what, we are also teaching them, you know what, sometimes life is difficult. COVID is difficult, but we're teaching you, we're trying to take that life circumstance that has changed, that I have no control over any longer. What am I going to do out of it?
Yeah.
And that's such a huge lesson, I think, for the kids to see.
And that's a massive point you've made there, because I do remember, you know, in the very early days, that was one of the concerns when they were going off, you know, for their for Eid or Christmas. They would say to me, "But Mum, what are you going to do?" And I could sense the worry in their voice, like they were thinking, "Oh my God, what is Mum going to do?" And then I started, you know, thinking about that, and I would say to them, well, Mum's going to have a great time. I've got, you know, I'm going to go and see my friend Alex, and I'm going to spend time with Nano and Granddad. So I would, you know, have to think forward, because I didn't want the children going away and then not being able to enjoy themselves because they're at some level thinking, oh, Mum's going to be sitting at home feeling really sad. So, you know, I really had to sort of think ahead so that I could send them off knowing that they're going to be comfortable and they're going to enjoy their time as well.
Yeah, and I think you don't want your children to feel that they are responsible for your happiness, because that's a huge burden on young shoulders. Absolutely. And you know, I think as Simone said as well, that we're teaching them lessons, and life is difficult and things don't always turn out as we planned them to. But actually, if they can see us coping and dealing with things in a certain way, then they are going to follow that example, and they follow what we do far more than what we say. So yeah, I think it is very important as well to think about the children. And I think there's nothing worse than if the children think, oh my gosh, you know, my mom or my dad or whatever, they're so sad because I'm not there. So we do have to think about, we're their teachers really, and what are we teaching them?
And I think we give them a gift in that. You know, if we could see this as parents giving our children a gift. So it's the gift of space and freedom to enjoy their time with the other parent. Yeah. And it's the gift of space and freedom for them not to be worried about us, That's an enormous thing that we have within our power. And, you know, as coaches, what we talk about is what is within your control? What can you control? And we can control our connection to our children by way of giving them freedom in a way that's different and you know, it's new. But then our children get to have 2 celebrations for the one event.
Yeah.
That's a gift. My boys quite enjoy that because they get double sets of stuff. They don't get double presents always all the time, but they do get double things. So, you know, as we bring this to a close now, and we've sort of talked about the concept of all sorts of different celebration days, I think is a good way to frame it, because it's all sorts of different things. And, you know, just because things have been in one way for all that we've known doesn't mean they have to stay that way. And if we could encourage you watching this to think, you know, well, what is my ideal and what is something that I would be happy with, that I could work with? It gives a sense of space to go, okay, well, then let's see what that might look like. So rather than dread something, start thinking about it with anticipation so that you can plan ahead. And those are the things that we would really encourage you to do. And we hope that you have found this helpful. We would really encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you will be aware when we get more episodes uploaded. It's the 1st and the 15th of every month. And if you know anyone who's on a journey, at any part of a journey with this, would you please feel free to share our video with them, because these are things that will make a difference to people if you haven't already had the ability to think of it, or have somebody in your world who's aware of it to help you through something that is just tough. It just is. But we can change it as we go. So thank you very much for watching. And please feel free to join us again on this couch with a coffee when we have another discussion about our next topic. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.